in the quiet hush of a forgotten Earth village, where the stars seemed closer than the nearest neighbor, old Ben Harper lived out his days like a weathered oak rooted deep in the soil. The year was 2045, and the world beyond his farm had long since faded into rumors of distant wars and crumbling cities. Ben, with his calloused hands and silver-streaked hair, tended to his modest fields under the vast canopy of night, where constellations whispered secrets he never bothered to decipher. Little did he know that on one fateful evening, as a storm brewed on the horizon, his simple act of kindness would unravel the fabric of his ordinary life and weave it into a tapestry of cosmic wonder. It started with the rain, a relentless downpour that turned the dirt roads into rivers of mud. Ben was inside his creaky old farmhouse, stirring a pot of stew over a wood-burning stove, the aroma of root vegetables and herbs filling the air like a warm embrace. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, when a faint knock echoed through the door. At first, he thought it was just a branch caught in the gale, but the knock came again, insistent and desperate. Wiping his hands on his apron, Ben shuffled to the door, his joints protesting with each step. He swung it open to reveal two figures huddled on his porch, drenched and shivering. They were young women, or so they appeared, slender and ethereal, with skin as pale as moonlight and hair that gleamed white even in the dim light, cascading like silken waterfalls over their shoulders. Their ears peeked through the strands, small and pointed like those of ancient elves from forgotten fairy tales, adding an otherworldly charm to their beauty. They wore tattered garments that clung to their curvaceous forms, hinting at elegance beneath the ruin, fabrics that shimmered faintly, as if woven from starlight itself. "Please," one of them whispered, her voice melodic yet laced with exhaustion. Her eyes, a striking violet, met Ben's with a plea that tugged at his heart. "We're lost, and so hungry. The storm caught us unaware." The other nodded, her emerald gaze equally captivating, her body trembling not just from the cold but from some deeper vulnerability. They looked no older than their early 20s, fragile against the fury of the night. Ben's heart, ever the soft spot in his rugged frame, didn't hesitate. Come in," he said gruffly, stepping aside. "No soul should be out in this mess. I've got stew on the fire, plenty for three." As they entered, dripping water onto the worn wooden floor, Ben couldn't help but notice their grace, even in distress. The one with violet eyes introduced herself as Lyra and her companion as Zara. They moved with an innate poise, their gowned remnants hugging their lithe, alluring figures in a way that stirred something long dormant in Ben's solitary life. He fetched towels and blankets, wrapping them gently, his rough hands brushing against their soft skin for the briefest moment, sending an unexpected spark through him. "Sit by the fire," he urged, guiding them to the hearth where flames danced like old friends. He ladled steaming stew into bowls, adding fresh bread from his pantry. The girls devoured it with a hunger that spoke of days without sustenance, their eyes lighting up with gratitude. Lyra's lips curved into a soft smile as she savored each bite, her pointed ears twitching slightly, as if attuned to some unheard melody. "You're too kind," Zara murmured between mouthfuls, her voice a soothing hum. "We've traveled far, farther than you can imagine." Ben chuckled, settling into his armchair with his own bowl. "Far. This village is the end of the road for most. Where you from, anyhow? City folk?" They exchanged a glance, a silent communication that Ben attributed to sisterly bond. "Something like that," Lyra replied evasively, her fingers tracing the rim of her bowl. "Our home is distant, but tonight this feels like home." As the storm raged on, conversation flowed like the rain outside. Ben shared stories of his youth, adventures in the fields, lost loves, and the quiet wisdom of a life tied to the earth. Lyra and Zara listened intently, their laughter like chimes in the wind, their presence filling the room with a warmth that went beyond the fire. Zara's hand brushed his knee accidentally as she reached for more bread, and Ben felt a flush creep up his neck, surprised at the rush of feeling from such a simple touch. By midnight, the rain had eased, but the girls looked weary. "You can stay the night," Ben offered. "Guest rooms upstairs, clean sheets and all," and their eyes sparkled with relief. "We don't know how to thank you," Lyra said, standing to embrace him lightly. Her body pressed against his for a heartbeat, her scent like exotic flowers under alien suns, igniting a curiosity in Ben he hadn't felt in decades. As they retired, Ben lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling, his mind alive with questions. Who were these mysterious beauties, appearing like apparitions from the storm? And why did their presence make his old heart beat like a young man's? Little did Ben know, Lyra and Zara were no ordinary wanderers. They were the last descendants of Zerathia, a distant realm among the stars, stranded on Earth after a catastrophic warp failure that shattered their vessel. Their people, elegant beings with elongated ears and luminous skin, had evolved in the crystalline spires of Zerathia, where technology intertwined with biology in ways humans could scarcely dream. But here, on this primitive world, they were vulnerable, their advanced physiology weakened by Earth's gravity and atmosphere. Hiding their true nature, they had roamed for weeks, evading detection, until hunger and the storm drove them to Ben's door. In him, they saw not just a savior, but a beacon of humanity's legendary compassion, stories whispered in Zerathian lore of Earthlings as fierce protectors, capable of love that spanned galaxies. As dawn broke, the girls slipped away quietly, leaving only a note: "Your kindness will echo through the stars. We will return." Ben found it on the table, puzzled but touched, tucking it away as a fond memory. Years passed. Ben aged gracefully, his farm thriving in solitude, but time took its toll. By 2055, aches turned to pains, and a persistent cough hinted at something deeper, a illness gnawing at his lungs from years of dust and labor. Doctors in the nearby town shook their heads. Treatments were scarce in this post-war era. Ben faced his twilight with quiet resolve, often gazing at the stars, wondering about those two ethereal visitors. Then, one crisp autumn evening, as Ben sat on his porch watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of fire, a low hum vibrated through the air. The ground trembled slightly, and from the heavens descended a sight that defied belief: a gleaming starship, its hull iridescent like a pearl, landing gracefully in his field. It was massive yet silent, engines pulsing with an otherworldly glow. Ben's heart raced as the ramp lowered, and out stepped two figures, Lyra and Zara, transformed, no longer ragged wanderers. They were resplendent in flowing robes of shimmering fabric that accentuated their voluptuous forms, their white hair adorned with crystalline jewels, pointed ears proudly displayed. They had matured into visions of alien royalty, their daw-white skin glowing with health, bodies exuding a confident allure that made Ben's breath catch. "Ben," Lyra called, her voice carrying across the distance like a siren's song. "We've come back, as promised." Zara smiled, her emerald eyes locking onto his. "You've aged, but your spirit shines as bright as ever. We've rebuilt our heritage. Zerathia rises again, thanks to the spark of hope you gave us." Ben stood, disbelief warring with joy. You're from the stars, and this ship, for me." They approached, their steps light and graceful, enveloping him in embraces that felt like coming home. "More than that," Zara whispered, her hand on his cheek, warm and inviting. "We've come to repay you. Our world awaits to heal you, to grant you eternity." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Ben stepped aboard the Starship, his old life fading like a dream. But this was no end. It was the beginning of a love story written in the stars, where a simple meal had forged bonds unbreakable, and humanity's quiet heroism would entwine with alien passion in ways he could never have imagined. The journey to Zerathia was a blur of wonders. The ship, named the Orali's Dawn, hummed with life, corridors lined with bioluminescent vines, air scented with floral essences that invigorated Ben's weary body. Lyra and Zara guided him to a chamber where holographic displays flickered with images of their homeworld, towering spires of crystal-piercing lavender skies, oceans that sang with harmonic waves, and beings like them moving in harmonious grace. "You saved us when we were at our lowest," Lyra explained as they settled into plush seats that molded to their forms. Her violet eyes held a depth of emotion, her gowned attire revealing just enough to stir Ben's imagination. "Our ship crashed during a reconnaissance mission. We were scouting Earth for potential alliances, but the malfunction left us stranded. Our tech depleted." Zara nodded, her fingers intertwining with Ben's in a gesture both comforting and intimate. "Your meal wasn't just food, it was life. In Zerathia, such acts bind souls. We've spent these years rallying our scattered kin, rebuilding our fleet with innovations born from Earth's resilience, ideas we gleaned from your world's history." Ben listened, mesmerized, his hand lingering in Zara's, feeling the subtle pulse of her alien heartbeat. "I just did what anyone would," he murmured, but their adoring gazes said otherwise. In their eyes, he was a hero, a human whose simple goodness outshone the stars. As the ship accelerated into warp, stars streaking past like fireflies, a subtle tension built. Lyra leaned closer, her breath warm on his ear. "Ben, in our culture, gratitude is expressed deeply. We've prepared a ritual to honor you, one that will mend your ailments and awaken your vitality." The chamber dimmed, soft lights casting ethereal glows on their forms. Zara's hand traced his arm, sending shivers through him. "Trust us," she purred, her voice laced with promise. "This is only the start." Ben's pulse quickened, a mix of anticipation and curiosity flooding him. What secrets did Zerathia hold, and how would this cosmic debt be repaid in the intimacy of the stars? The Aurali's dawn pierced the veil of space, emerging into the orbit of Zerathia, a planet that took Ben's breath away. Swirling auroras danced across its atmosphere, and as they descended, the spires rose like giants from mist-shrouded valleys. The air was crisp, infused with energies that made Ben feel lighter, his cough easing almost immediately. Lyra and Zara led him from the ship, their hands on his arms, guiding him through bustling plazas where Zerathians greeted them with reverent bows. The people were stunning, tall, elegant, with the same pale skin and pointed ears, their clothing a blend of functionality and sensuality, fabrics that shifted colors with emotion. "You are our savior's guest," a elder intoned, placing a crystalline amulet around Ben's neck. It hummed against his skin, diagnostics already weaving through his body, targeting the illness with nanoscale precision. But the true healing came in private quarters, a vast suite overlooking a luminous sea. Lyra and Zara, now in more revealing attire that hugged their curves like second skin, prepared the ritual. "This is the bond of eternity," Lyra explained, her voice husky. "It shares our life force, granting you youth and longevity." Zara dimmed the lights, music from hidden sources filling the air, melodic tones that resonated in Ben's core. They positioned him on a soft platform, their hands gentle yet purposeful, removing his earthly clothes with care. Ben's heart pounded as their touch ignited sparks, their bodies close, exuding a warmth that was both comforting and arousing. "Relax," Zara whispered, her lips brushing his shoulder. "Let us repay you, fully." As the ritual began, energies flowed, mending his body while awakening desires long suppressed. Lyra's eyes met his, filled with a passion that transcended worlds, her form pressing against him in a dance of gratitude and longing. In that moment, Ben realized this was no mere repayment. It was the dawn of a love that would span eternities, where a human's kindness had captured the hearts of stars. The energies of the bond of eternity began to weave through the air like invisible threads, pulsing with a soft, rhythmic glow that matched the beating of their hearts. Ben lay on the platform, his body bare and vulnerable under the dim, ethereal lights of the suite, feeling a strange mix of vulnerability and exhilaration. The luminous sea outside the vast windows cast rippling reflections across the room, turning everything into a dreamscape where reality blurred with desire. Lyra and Zara moved around him with deliberate grace, their own garments now reduced to sheer, flowing silks that clung to their curves like mist on a mountain peak, revealing the elegant lines of their pale skin and the subtle sheen that seemed to emanate from within. Lyra positioned herself at his head, her white hair cascading forward as she leaned down, her violet eyes locking onto his with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. "Breathe with us, Ben," she murmured, her voice a velvet caress that wrapped around his senses. Her fingers traced light patterns on his temples, each touch igniting tiny sparks of warmth that spread outward, easing the deep-seated aches in his bones. It was as if her very essence was seeping into him, a gentle invasion that promised renewal but hinted at something deeper, more intimate. Zara knelt at his side, her emerald gaze filled with a hunger that mirrored his growing anticipation. She placed her palm flat against his chest, right over his heart, and Ben felt the immediate connection, a subtle vibration that synced their pulses. Her skin was impossibly smooth, cooler than a human's yet warming under his touch when he instinctively reached up to cover her hand with his. "Feel the flow," she whispered, her breath warm against his ear, carrying a faint scent of exotic blooms that made his head swim. "Our life force is ancient, drawn from the stars themselves. It will mend you, but it demands trust and surrender." As the ritual deepened, the air grew thicker, charged with an electric tension that built slowly, like a storm gathering on the horizon. Ben's body responded in ways he hadn't expected. The persistent cough that had plagued him for months faded into nothingness, replaced by a surging vitality that coursed through his veins, but with it came a heightened awareness of every brush of fabric against skin, every subtle shift in their positions. Lyra's thighs brushed against his shoulders as she adjusted, her pointed ears twitching slightly in concentration, and Ben couldn't help but notice the way her silk draped over her full breasts. The material so thin it was almost translucent under the glowing lights. Suspicion flickered in his mind amidst the haze. What if this bond went beyond healing? The way Zara's fingers trailed lower, skimming his abdomen with feather-light precision, sent a jolt of heat straight to his core. It was erotic in its subtlety, a dance of touches that promised more without rushing, building a suspense that left him aching for the next contact. "Is this normal?" he managed to ask, his voice husky, eyes darting between them. Zara's lips curved into a knowing smile, her hand pausing just above his navel, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her. "In Zerathia, healing and passion are intertwined," she replied softly, her voice laced with a playful edge that made his pulse quicken. "Our bodies are vessels of energy, Ben. To share it fully requires connection." She leaned in closer, her white hair falling like a curtain around them, her breath mingling with his as her lips hovered inches from his neck. Lyra joined the intimacy, her hands now sliding down to his shoulders, massaging with a rhythm that mirrored the waves outside. Each need released knots he didn't know he had, but it also stirred a deeper longing. Her body arched gracefully as she worked, the curve of her hip brushing his arm, sending waves of sensation through him. The room seemed to pulse with their combined auras, the crystals embedded in the walls humming in response, amplifying the energy until it felt like a living entity wrapping around them all. Ben's mind raced with questions, suspense coiling tighter with every passing second. Who were these women truly? Descendants of a lost alien lineage? Yes, but their eyes held secrets, glimpses of a past filled with cosmic exiles and forbidden knowledge. As Zara's touch ventured lower still, tracing the line of his hip with agonizing slowness, he wondered if this ritual would bind them in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. Would it change him forever, not just in body but in soul? The thought was thrilling, terrifying, and undeniably arousing, his body responding with a hardness that betrayed his inner turmoil. The energies intensified, a soft glow enveloping them like a cocoon. Lyra's voice broke the silence, a sultry whisper that cut through the haze. "Close your eyes, Ben. Let go of earthly doubts. Feel us, truly feel us." Her lips grazed his forehead, a kiss that wasn't quite innocent, lingering just long enough to spark fantasies of what might come next. Zara mirrored the gesture on his chest, her mouth pressing softly against his skin, her tongue flicking out briefly to taste the salt of his sweat, sending a shockwave of pleasure straight through him. Time stretched in that suspended moment, the suspense building to a fever pitch. Ben's hands moved of their own accord, one reaching up to tangle in Lyra's hair, feeling the silken strands slip through his fingers like liquid moonlight. The other found Zara's thigh, smooth and firm under his palm, her muscle tensing slightly at his touch. She let out a soft gasp, her emerald eyes darkening with desire, and the sound was like music, urging him onward. Yet, beneath the erotic pull, a thread of mystery wove through it all. Whispers of Zerathian lore echoed in his mind, tales they'd shared on the journey here, of ancient pacts that could forge unbreakable alliances or shatter worlds. What if this bond revealed hidden dangers, a rival faction among their people, perhaps jealous of the human intruder? The thought added an edge to the intimacy, making every caress feel like a step closer to an unknown precipice. Zara shifted, straddling his waist with effortless poise, her weight a delicious pressure that grounded him amid the swirling energies. Her hips settled against him, the thin barrier of her silk doing little to hide the heat between them. "You're stronger than you know," she breathed, grinding subtly in a way that built the tension unbearably. Lyra moved to his other side, her body pressing close, her hand joining Zara's in exploration, fingers dancing across his skin in tandem. Ben's breath came in ragged gasps, the erotic suspense coiling like a spring ready to unleash. Their touches grew bolder, tracing paths that ignited fires in places long forgotten, each one a promise of ecstasy intertwined with the thrill of the unknown. The ritual's power surged, healing his body while awakening desires that spanned galaxies, leaving him teetering on the edge of surrender. As the glow brightened, enveloping them in a shared aura, Ben felt the first true merge, a whisper of their thoughts brushing his mind, erotic images flickering like stars, visions of tangled limbs under alien skies, of passions that defied gravity. It was intoxicating, suspenseful in its revelation, hinting at depths yet unexplored. Lyra's lips found his ear again, her voice a seductive murmur. "This is just the beginning, Ben. The bond deepens, and so does our gratitude." Her hand slid lower, joining Zara's in a coordinated caress that made him arch involuntarily, the erotic charge building to an almost unbearable crescendo. In the heart of Zerathia, amid the hum of ancient energies, Ben hovered on the brink, his body alive with sensation, his mind racing with the suspense of what this cosmic entanglement would ultimately demand. The ritual's climax approached slowly, deliberately, each moment stretched to heighten the anticipation. Zara's movements became more insistent, her body rocking gently against him, the friction through the silk sending waves of pleasure that blurred the line between healing and seduction. Ben's hands explored her back, feeling the subtle ridges along her spine, remnants of her alien heritage, like delicate scales that pulsed under his touch, responding to his energy. Lyra watched with hooded eyes, her own arousal evident in the flush creeping across her pale cheeks. She leaned in to capture his mouth in a kiss that started soft but deepened quickly, her tongue exploring with a curiosity that spoke of worlds apart. It was erotic in its novelty, the faint taste of stardust on her lips, the way her pointed ears brushed his cheek, adding an exotic thrill. Breaking the kiss, she trailed her mouth down his jaw, nipping lightly at his skin, while Zara's hands ventured to more intimate territories, her fingers teasing with expert precision. The suspense was palpable. Ben could sense the ritual's power peaking, a tidal wave of energy ready to crash over them, but it held back, teasing, drawing out the moment to exquisite torture. "What happens next?" he whispered against Lyra's neck, his voice thick with desire. Zara's answer came as a low chuckle, her body pressing closer. "We become one, in every way." Her eyes met his, promising revelations that would shatter his earthly perceptions, the erotic promise laced with the suspense of interstellar secrets. As the energies swirled faster, the room filled with a symphony of soft moans and humming crystals, Ben surrendered to the pull, his body and soul entwining with theirs in a dance of cosmic passion. As the energies swirled faster, the room transformed into a vortex of light and sound, the humming crystals amplifying every gasp and whisper into a symphony that echoed through Ben's very being. The platform beneath him vibrated with raw power, and he felt the merge intensify, a thrilling cascade of sensations that pushed him toward an unseen edge. Lyra and Zara's bodies moved in perfect harmony, their touches no longer tentative but urgent, demanding, as if the ritual itself hungered for completion. Ben's hands gripped Zara's hips, pulling her closer, his fingers digging into her soft, yielding flesh, while Lyra's mouth claimed his in a kiss that tasted of eternity, sweet, electric, and laced with the thrill of the forbidden. The bond surged like a tidal wave crashing over them, dramatic in its force, ripping through barriers Ben didn't know existed. His mind flooded with flashes of their memories, Zerathia's fall in a blaze of interstellar war, ships exploding like dying stars, Lyra and Zara fleeing through wormholes that twisted reality itself. He saw their desperation on Earth, the storm that mirrored their inner turmoil, and then him, a simple human, offering shelter and sustenance, becoming the anchor that reignited their will to fight. It was thrilling, this sudden influx of knowledge, making his heart pound with the weight of their history, but curiosity gnawed at him even as pleasure built. What other secrets lurked in their shared consciousness? Were their enemies still pursuing them across the void? Zara arched back, her white hair whipping like a comet's tail, her emerald eyes wide with ecstasy as the energies coiled tighter. "Ben!" she cried out, her voice breaking the symphony with dramatic urgency. Her body trembled against his, the subtle ridges along her spine glowing faintly, pulsing in time with the ritual's climax. Ben thrust upward instinctively, the connection deepening in a way that transcended the physical, a fusion of souls that sent shockwaves through his rejuvenated form. The illness that had ravaged him vanished in an instant, replaced by a surge of vitality so potent it bordered on overwhelming. His muscles tensing with newfound strength, his senses sharpening to perceive colors and sounds beyond human limits, Lyra broke the kiss, her violet eyes blazing with a mix of passion and revelation. "Feel it now, the surprise of our gift," she gasped, her hands pressing against his chest as if to anchor him amid the storm. In that moment, a curious twist unfolded. The bond revealed not just healing, but augmentation. Ben's body began to change subtly, his skin taking on a faint luminescent sheen, his senses expanding to hear the whisper of distant galaxies. It was surprising, thrilling, a human elevated to something more, his earthly limitations shattering like fragile glass, but with it came a dramatic undercurrent of danger. Visions flickered of shadowy figures in Zerathian council halls, dissenters who viewed humans as primitives, unworthy of such union. Was this bond a beacon that could draw peril to their doorstep? The room shook as the energies reached their peak, crystals shattering in bursts of light that rained down like stardust, harmless yet spectacular. Ben's climax built relentlessly, a thrilling crescendo that mirrored the ritual's own, his body entwined with theirs in a tangle of limbs and heated skin. Zara's moans grew louder, her pointed ears flattening against her head in overwhelming pleasure, while Lyra's nails raked lightly down his back, leaving trails of electric fire. The suspense from before exploded into action, a sudden, surprising surge where their minds linked fully, allowing Ben to feel their desires as his own, a curious blend of alien longing and human fervor that amplified every sensation tenfold. In the throes of it, a dramatic revelation hit like a meteor. Lyra and Zara weren't just grateful survivors, they were heirs to Zerathia's throne. Exiled princesses who had used the decade to amass a hidden fleet, forging alliances in the shadows of forgotten nebulae. Ben's kindness had been the catalyst, inspiring them to reclaim their destiny, but now, bound to him, he was thrust into the heart of an interstellar intrigue. Thrilling whispers in his mind hinted at a looming threat, a rival empire, the Dravex, whose scouts had detected the ritual's energy signature, racing toward Zerathia with warships armed for conquest. Ben's release came in a blinding flash, his body convulsing with pleasure so intense it bordered on pain, waves of ecstasy rippling through the bond and echoing back from Lyra and Zara. They cried out in unison, their forms glowing brighter, the platform beneath them cracking under the force of their combined climax. It was dramatic, a cosmic orgasm that shook the suite's foundations, lights flickering as if the planet itself felt the tremor. Surprise lingered in the afterglow. Ben realized he could now sense their emotions directly, Zara's fierce protectiveness, Lyra's tender vulnerability, creating a curious intimacy that made him wonder if love could truly bridge the stars. But the thrill didn't end there. As they collapsed in a heap of tangled bodies, breathing ragged and skin slick with sweat, a holographic alert pierced the haze. The elder from earlier appeared in shimmering form, his face etched with urgency. Princesses, the Dravex Armada approaches, our sensors detect their warp signatures closing in. The bond's energy has drawn them like moths to flame. Lyra bolted upright, her voluptuous form still flushed, violet eyes narrowing in determination. How many ships? She demanded, the shift from passion to peril so sudden it left Ben reeling. 20, at least. The elder replied, his voice trembling. They demand the human, claim his integration violates ancient treaties. Zara's hand tightened on Ben's, her emerald gaze meeting his with a mix of fear and resolve. We won't let them take you, she vowed, the words thrilling in their intensity. Ben felt a surge of human defiance rise within him, the HFY spirit igniting. Earthlings, after all, were known across whispers of the cosmos as unyielding warriors, capable of turning the tide with sheer willpower. The suite's windows darkened as alarms blared across the spires, the luminous sea churning violently below. Ben rose, his newly empowered body humming with energy, curiosity burning about this unexpected war. Tell me what to do, he said, voice steady despite the surprise, ready to embrace the dramatic role fate had thrust upon him. Lyra activated a console with a wave of her hand, holographic battle maps springing to life, red icons swarming toward Zerathia's blue defenses. The Aurali's Dawn is our flagship, she explained rapidly, her white hair disheveled yet alluring. You'll command it with us. Your human ingenuity could be the key. Our tech is advanced, but rigid. Yours is adaptive. Surprising. Thrilling adrenaline coursed through Ben as they dressed hastily in form-fitting battle suits that accentuated their figures, the material alive with protective fields. The bond allowed him to anticipate their moves, a curious synergy that made them a formidable trio. As they raced toward the hangar, the ground quaked from distant impacts, Dravex probes testing defenses, explosions blooming like fireworks in the sky. In the hangar, the Aurali's Dawn awaited, its iridescent hull now armed with plasma cannons and shield arrays. Crew members, elegant Zerathians with pointed ears and pale skin, saluted as they boarded, eyes wide at the human in their midst. Ben took the command chair, flanked by Lyra and Zara, their hands linking in a chain that pulsed with shared power. Launch, Zara commanded, the ship roaring to life, thrusting into the atmosphere with a dramatic burst of speed. Stars blurred as they entered the fray, Dravex vessels looming like predatory shadows, sleek, black behemoths with jagged spines, firing volleys of energy that lit the void. Ben's mind raced, curiosity fueling innovation. Their formation, it's predictable, like a phalanx, we can flank them with a feint. His suggestion surprised even him, drawn from old Earth war stories he'd read as a boy. Lyra nodded, violet eyes gleaming. Brilliant. Engage. The battle erupted in thrilling chaos. The Aurali's Dawn dodged a barrage, countermeasures deploying in a shower of decoys that confused enemy sensors. Zara piloted with expert grace, her body leaning into turns that pressed her against Ben, a reminder of their recent intimacy amid the peril. Plasma bolts streaked past, one grazing the shields in a dramatic flare that shook the bridge. "Target their lead ship," Ben shouted, pointing at the holographic display. The Bond amplified his command, crew responding with uncanny precision. Cannons fired, a surprising hit cracking the enemy's hull, debris spiraling into space, but the Dravex countered fiercely, a massive beam lancing toward them. "Evasive!" Lyra cried, the ship rolling just in time, the beam scorching a nearby moon instead. The thrill peaked as Ben felt the Bond's full potential, a curious fusion where he could glimpse enemy tactics through faint psychic echoes. Turning the tide, in a climactic maneuver, they unleashed a warp burst, a surprise tactic Zara improvised from Ben's adaptive thinking, teleporting behind the armada and unleashing a devastating salvo. Ships exploded in brilliant fireballs, the Dravex fleet fracturing in panic. As the last enemy vessel retreated into hyperspace, cheers erupted on the bridge. Ben pulled Lyra and Zara into a fierce embrace, the dramatic victory sealing their bond in fire and stars. But curiosity lingered. What other threats awaited? And how deep would this surprising love take them? The afterglow of battle settled like cosmic dust, leaving Ben breathless, his heart pounding from the thrilling high of survival and conquest. The afterglow of battle settled like cosmic dust, leaving Ben breathless, his heart pounding from the thrilling high of survival and conquest. But as the cheers on the bridge faded into a tense hush, reality crashed back in with the force of a meteor strike. Alarms still blared faintly in the background, red lights pulsing like warning heartbeats across the consoles, and Ben realized with a dramatic jolt that their victory was far from complete. The Dravex retreat had left behind a swarm of automated drones, sleek and insidious, burrowing into Zerathia's atmosphere like ticks on a cosmic beast. "They're seeding the planet with disruptors," Lyra exclaimed, her violet eyes widening as she slammed her fist on the holographic display, the map blooming with angry red dots that multiplied like a viral outbreak. Zara spun the ship with a graceful flick of her wrist, her emerald gaze locked on the sensors, but in her haste, she miscalculated a thruster burst, sending the Orali's Dawn lurching sideways. Ben, still strapped into the command chair but unaccustomed to zero-gravity maneuvers, felt his stomach flip as he tumbled forward, right into Lyra's lap. Her curvaceous form cushioned the impact, but the awkwardness hit like a plasma bolt, his face pressed against the soft swell of her chest, muffled by the sheer fabric of her battlesuit, which chose that moment to glitch and become semi-transparent from the energy overload. "Ben," she gasped, half in surprise, half in amusement, her pointed ears flushing a delicate pink as she steadied him with hands that lingered a tad too long on his shoulders. He scrambled back, face burning hotter than a supernova, muttering apologies while trying not to stare at the accidental reveal, her pale skin glowing faintly, the elegant curves that had been so intimately shared during the ritual now on unintended display. "Sorry, Earth gravity's got nothing on this," he stammered, injecting a bit of humor to cut the tension. "Back home, the worst tumble I took was off a hay bale, not into royalty." The crew exchanged glances, some suppressing chuckles, their pointed ears twitching in what Ben was starting to recognize as Zerathian mirth. But the drama heightened as another drone wave incoming alert pierced the air, turning the light-hearted fumble into a stark reminder of the peril at hand. Zara, ever the composed one, couldn't hide a smirk as she righted the ship, her white hair swirling like a comet tail in the low grav. "Focus, my hero," she teased, her voice laced with playful affection, but her eyes betrayed the underlying drama. The drones weren't just nuisances, they were broadcasting a signal that could summon reinforcements, turning their hard-won battle into a siege. Ben rubbed his neck, the awkward moment lingering like an afterimage, but it fueled his resolve. Here he was, a simple farmer turned interstellar commander, fumbling through alien tech and romance, yet somehow holding the line. "All right, princesses," he said with a grin, heightening the drama by leaning forward dramatically. "Let's swat these space bugs before they crash the party." The ship dove toward Zerathia's surface, the atmosphere igniting around the hull in a fiery embrace that rattled every panel. Lyra coordinated the weapons array, her fingers dancing over controls with elegant precision, but in the heat of the descent, a console sparked from battle damage, sending a shower of harmless but startling embers across the bridge. One landed on Ben's suit, right on his thigh, and he yelped, swatting at it frantically, only to realize it was cooling gel, not fire, leaving a sticky residue that made his movements comically sluggish. "What in the stars is this stuff?" he groaned, trying to wipe it off, but it clung like molasses, turning his attempts into an awkward dance that had Zara biting her lip to stifle laughter. "Zerathian repair nanites," she explained between evasive rolls. "They fix breaches, and apparently make humans look like they're wrestling invisible foes." The humor provided a brief respite, but the drama escalated as they breached the cloud layer, the drones swarming like angry hornets around the crystalline spires of Zerathia's capital. These weren't mindless machines, they adapted, learning from each shot fired, their jagged forms twisting midair to evade plasma bursts. Ben's human ingenuity kicked in again, spotting a pattern in their movements, predictable loops that reminded him of crop circles back on Earth. "They're circling the power cores," he shouted, pointing at the map, his voice booming with dramatic urgency. But in his excitement, he accidentally activated the ship's intercom, broadcasting his next words fleet-wide, like pigeons around a statue. "Wait, do you even have pigeons here?" The fleet's response was a chorus of confused murmurs over the comms, Zerathian voices questioning the Earth reference, adding an awkward layer to the chaos. Lyra shot him a look, her violet eyes sparkling with a mix of exasperation and fondness. "Pigeons. We'll discuss your avian analogies later, Ben." Yet, his observation proved pivotal. Zara rerouted power to the shields, creating a dramatic electromagnetic pulse that mimicked a planetary storm, frying half the drones swarm in a spectacular light show that lit the skies like fireworks. Drones exploded in chains, debris raining down harmlessly into the luminous sea, but the surviving ones converged on the Orali's dawn. Latching onto the hull with magnetic claws that screeched like banshees, the ship bucked wildly, systems flickering as the drones drilled in, heightening the drama to a fever pitch. Ben unstrapped himself, grabbing a handheld disruptor, alien tech that felt oddly like a fancy garden hose in his calloused hands. "I'm going out there," he declared, his tone laced with heroic bravado, but as he headed for the airlock, his sticky nanite-covered boot slipped on the floor, sending him sliding comically into the wall with a thud. Zara and Lyra rushed to help, their lithe forms pulling him up, but the awkward proximity, bodies pressed together in the narrow corridor, brought back flashes of the ritual, their scents mingling in the confined space, turning the moment from humorous mishap to charged tension. "You can't go alone," Zara insisted, her emerald eyes fierce, but Ben waved her off with a chuckle. "I've wrestled bigger pests on the farm, space ticks ain't got nothing on Earth roaches." The humor undercut the danger, but as the airlock cycled, the drama surged. Outside, the wind howled, drones buzzing like oversized bees, their red sensors locking onto him. Ben fired the disruptor, blasts crackling through the air, taking out one after another in thrilling bursts of energy. But one drone evaded, clamping onto his leg with a vise-like grip, its drill whirring dangerously close to his suit. Panic spiked, awkward didn't begin to cover dangling from a starship mid-atmosphere. Yelling for help while trying not to sound like a damsel, Lyra appeared at the hatch, extending a glowing tether that wrapped around him like a lifeline, pulling him back with surprising strength. "Hold on," she cried, her voice dramatic over the roar, but as he tumbled inside, the drone detached and exploded just outside, the blast wave slamming the door shut and throwing them both to the floor in a heap. Ben landed atop her, their faces inches apart, breaths mingling in the sudden silence. "Thanks," he murmured, the awkward intimacy palpable, his body reacting to her closeness despite the adrenaline. She smiled, a hint of humor in her eyes. "Anytime, my clumsy savior, but next time, let the princesses handle the heroics." Zara sealed the airlock from the bridge, her laughter echoing over the internal speakers. "You two all right? Or should I give you a moment?" The tease heightened the awkwardness, Ben scrambling off Lyra with apologies, but the bond pulsed with shared amusement, easing the drama into a warmer connection. With the drones neutralized, the ship stabilized, but scans revealed a lingering threat, a Dravex spy probe embedded in a spire, transmitting coordinates for a larger invasion. The stakes soared, failure meant Zerathia's fall, and Ben, the unlikely human at the center, felt the weight of worlds on his shoulders. Racing back to the bridge, Ben proposed a bold plan: infiltrate the spire manually, using his primitive Earth smarts to bypass the probe's defenses, something about low-tech jamming that alien AI couldn't predict. Lyra and Zara exchanged glances, the drama building as they weighed the risks, but his enthusiasm, peppered with humorous Earth idioms, won them over. like sneaking into the henhouse without waking the rooster," he quipped, earning puzzled but endeared looks. As they prepared for descent, the awkward situations piled on. Ben's suit, still sticky from nanites, adhered to Zara's when she hugged him for luck, requiring a comical pry-apart that left them both laughing amidst the tension. "You're stuck with us now, literally," Zara joked, her hand lingering on his chest, the humor a shield against the growing dread. The drop pod launched, hurtling toward the spire with heart-stopping speed, the trio strapped in tight. Impact shook them, doors hissing open to reveal the crystalline interior, beautiful yet foreboding. Echoes of ancient Zerathian chants humming in the walls. They moved stealthily, but Ben's boot crunched on a loose shard, the sound amplifying dramatically in the vast chamber, alerting automated sentinels that whirred to life like angry ghosts. The fight was frantic, plasma fire exchanging in a ballet of light and shadow. Lyra dodged with elven grace, her pointed ears attuned to every hum, while Zara blasted with precision. Ben, in the thick of it, used his disruptor like a club when it jammed, smashing a sentinel in a humorous display of brute force that shattered it into sparkling dust. "Take that, you tin can," he yelled, the awkward human strength surprising even him, drawing admiring glances from his companions. But the drama peaked at the probe's core, a pulsating orb guarded by energy fields that adapted to their attacks. Ben's idea, overload it with a feedback loop from his Earthwatch, a relic he'd kept, its simple battery creating an unpredictable surge. "This old thing?" he said with a wink, holding up the battered timepiece, adding humor to the high-stakes moment. It worked, the fields flickered, allowing Zara to disable the probe in a dramatic explosion of data streams. As they escaped the collapsing chamber, debris tumbling like an avalanche, Ben scooped Lyra out of harm's way when a beam fell, their bodies pressing close in the narrow escape tunnel. "My turn to save the day," he breathed, the awkward heroism sparking a kiss from her quick, passionate, amid the chaos. Zara pulled them aboard the pod just in time, the spire stabilizing behind them, back on the Orali's dawn. Exhaustion mingled with triumph, but the bond revealed a new awkward twist. The ritual's effects had amplified Ben's emotions, making his affections broadcast subtly to them, leading to humorous misreads like Lyra blushing at his stray thoughts of her curves during debrief. "Human minds are vivid," she teased, heightening the intimate drama. With Zerathia safe for now, they shared a quiet moment on the observation deck, stars wheeling outside. Ben wrapped arms around them both, the trio entwined in a web of drama, awkwardness, and budding love that promised more adventures and mishaps ahead. With Zerathia safe for now, they shared a quiet moment on the observation deck, stars wheeling outside, but the tranquility was short-lived as the bond pulsed with unspoken desires, drawing them closer in the soft glow of the nebula beyond the viewport. Ben's arms remained wrapped around Lyra and Zara, their bodies fitting against his like pieces of a puzzle forged in the heat of battle and ritual. The adrenaline from the fight lingered, transforming into a different kind of energy, one that simmered beneath the surface, intimate and insistent. Lyra's head rested on his shoulder, her white hair tickling his neck, while Zara's hand traced lazy circles on his back, each touch reigniting the sparks from their earlier connection. The observation deck was a sanctuary of sorts, vast windows curving around them like a protective bubble, the stars a mesmerizing backdrop that made everything feel infinite. "We've earned this peace," Zara murmured, her emerald eyes lifting to meet Ben's, filled with a warmth that went beyond gratitude. She pressed closer, her curvaceous form molding to his side, the battle suit she still wore hugging her figure in a way that highlighted every graceful line. Ben felt his pulse quicken, the bond amplifying the subtle shift from companionship to something deeper, more primal. Lyra sensed it too, her violet gaze darkening as she tilted her head up, her lips brushing his jaw in a feather-light kiss. "The bond, it's calling us again," she whispered, her voice husky with anticipation. "After all we've faced, let's celebrate life together." There was no awkwardness now, only a natural progression, the drama of the day melting into this private haven where they could explore the depths of their connection without interruption. Ben nodded, his hands sliding down their backs, pulling them nearer as they moved as one toward a secluded alcove off the deck, a private chamber designed for reflection, but tonight, it would serve a more passionate purpose. The door hissed shut behind them, sealing out the world, and the room adjusted automatically, lights dimming to a soft, ambient glow, the air filling with a faint, soothing aroma of Zerathian blossoms that relaxed the mind while heightening the senses. Soft cushions materialized from the floor, forming an inviting expanse that beckoned them. Zara took the lead, her fingers deftly unzipping Ben's suit, peeling it away layer by layer with a tenderness that belied her warrior spirit. As the fabric fell, exposing his toned form, renewed and vital from the ritual, she let out an appreciative sigh, her hands exploring the planes of his chest, tracing the muscles that had carried them through danger. "You're magnificent," she breathed, leaning in to press her lips to his collarbone, her touch sending waves of warmth through him. Ben reciprocated, his hands finding the clasps of her suit, revealing her pale, luminous skin inch by inch. The sight of her full, inviting curves stirring a deep hunger within him. Lyra joined seamlessly, her movements fluid as she helped divest Zara of the remaining barriers, their bodies brushing in the process, creating a symphony of soft contacts that built the intimacy. Soon, all three were bare, vulnerable yet empowered in the shared space, the bond weaving their emotions into a tapestry of mutual desire. Ben pulled Lyra into a deep kiss, his lips capturing hers with a passion that had been building since their first meeting, his tongue exploring gently, tasting the sweetness that was uniquely hers. She responded eagerly, her pointed ears twitching with pleasure, her hands roaming his sides as Zara watched for a moment, her emerald eyes alight with affection, before she pressed against his back, her breasts soft against him, her lips trailing kisses along his spine. The alcove seemed to come alive with their energy, the cushions conforming to their forms as they lowered themselves onto the plush surface. Ben lay back, drawing them both down with him, their bodies entangling in a harmonious embrace. Zara straddled his hips, her thighs warm and firm around him, guiding him with a slow, deliberate motion that united them in a profound way. The sensation was exquisite, a blend of physical bliss and emotional depth amplified by the bond, making every movement feel like a shared heartbeat. Lyra positioned herself beside them, her hand caressing Zara's back while leaning in to kiss Ben again, her own arousal evident in the way she arched toward his touch. Time blurred as they moved together, exploring each other with a reverence that spoke of trust and connection. Ben's hands wandered, cupping Lyra's curves, eliciting soft moans from her as he paid attention to her most sensitive spots. His fingers gentle yet insistent, Zara's rhythm built steadily, her hips rocking in a dance that drew gasps from all three, the bond allowing them to feel each other's pleasure as if it were their own, a cascading wave that intensified every caress, every thrust. Lyra shifted, joining more fully, her body aligning with theirs in a fluid motion that created a perfect union, their forms intertwining in ways that celebrated their unique bond. Whispers filled the air, endearments in Zerathian tongue from the women, mingled with Ben's murmured praises, his voice rough with emotion. "You too, you're everything," he said between breaths, his hands gripping Zara's waist as she leaned down to kiss him, her white hair falling around them like a veil. Lyra's lips found Zara's neck, adding another layer of intimacy, the three of them lost in a rhythm that was both tender and fervent, building toward peaks of ecstasy that washed over them in shared waves. The bond heightened every sensation, making the experience not just physical but transcendent, as if they were merging souls under the stars. Ben felt their essences blend, Lyra's playful curiosity mixing with Zara's fierce passion, creating a harmony that pushed him to new heights. They took turns guiding the pace, ensuring each felt cherished, their movements synchronized by an invisible thread that made awkwardness impossible, only pure, consensual joy. As the intensity crested, they clung to one another, bodies trembling in unison, the release a powerful affirmation of life after the day's trials. Soft cries echoed in the chamber, muffled by kisses and embraces, the aftershocks lingering like echoes in the vastness of space. They collapsed in a contented heap, limbs entangled, breaths sinking as the bond pulsed with satisfaction. In the quiet that followed, Lyra traced patterns on Ben's chest, her violet eyes soft. "This is what the bond promises: unity, pleasure, forever." Zara nodded, her head on his shoulder, her hand linking with Lyra's across him. Ben smiled, pulling them closer, the intimacy forging an unbreakable tie that went beyond words. Yet, even in this bliss, a subtle undercurrent stirred, the bond revealing faint echoes of distant threats, reminders that their adventures were far from over. But for now, wrapped in each other's warmth, they savored the moment, bodies still humming with the glow of their connection. The chamber's lights gradually brightened, signaling the approach of Zerathia's dawn, but they lingered, exchanging lazy kisses and touches that reignited smaller sparks. Ben marveled at how natural it felt, this triad of affection, his human heart expanding to encompass their alien grace. Zara's fingers danced lightly over his skin, teasing sensitive areas that made him chuckle softly, the playfulness easing them back into the world. Lyra propped herself up on an elbow, her curvaceous form a vision in the soft light, and shared a knowing glance with Zara. "We should rest," she suggested, though her tone hinted at reluctance. They dressed slowly, helping each other with lingering caresses, the intimacy of the act as meaningful as what had preceded it. Stepping back onto the observation deck, the stars seemed brighter, their bond stronger. Ben wrapped an arm around each, pulling them close as they watched a comet streak by, a symbol of their journey. The peace was profound, but the universe whispered of more to come, their love a beacon in the cosmic night. The peace was profound, but the universe whispered of more to come, their love a beacon in the cosmic night, and as they stood there on the observation deck, wrapped in the afterglow of their shared intimacy, Ben felt a subtle tug at the edges of his mind, a faint, insistent pull from the bond that he initially dismissed as lingering echoes of their passion. The stars outside seemed to pulse in rhythm with it, almost as if the cosmos itself was trying to communicate, but he shook it off, attributing it to the overwhelming events of the day. Lyra and Zara exchanged a glance he didn't catch, their expressions softening as they led him back to their private quarters, the ship's corridors humming softly underfoot like a lullaby meant to soothe. Once inside, the room adjusted to their presence, walls shimmering with holographic vistas of Zerathia's serene landscapes, rolling hills of crystal grass under dual moons, a reminder of the home they'd fought to protect. Ben sank onto the expansive bed, his body still humming with renewed energy, pulling the two women down with him in a tangle of limbs and quiet laughter. "I could get used to this," he murmured, his fingers tracing the curve of Zara's hip. Feeling the subtle warmth of her skin that always carried a faint, ethereal glow, she smiled, nestling closer, her emerald eyes reflecting the holographic lights, while Lyra propped herself up on one elbow, her white hair spilling over her shoulder like a cascade of moonlight. "We have eternity for that," Lyra said softly, her voice carrying a weight that Ben didn't quite register at first. She leaned in to kiss him, her lips gentle but lingering, and through the bond, he felt a surge of emotions, not just affection, but something deeper, layered with anticipation and a hint of sorrow. It was odd, that undercurrent, but the intimacy of the moment swept it away as Zara's hands joined in, exploring his chest with familiar tenderness. Their touches reignited the spark, bodies pressing together in a slow, sensual dance that built naturally from the peace they'd claimed. Ben lost himself in it, his hands roaming over their forms, savoring the way Lyra's pointed ears quivered under his caress, the soft sighs that escaped Zara's lips as he pulled her atop him. The bond deepened the connection, allowing sensations to flow freely, Zara's pleasure echoing in his mind as he moved with her, Lyra's whispers of encouragement blending with the rhythmic hum of the ship. It was a celebration of survival, their movements fluid and unhurried, each thrust and caress a testament to the life they'd reclaimed. Ben felt invincible in those moments, his rejuvenated body responding with vigor, drawing out moans that filled the room like a private symphony. They shifted positions seamlessly, Lyra taking her turn to straddle him while Zara kissed trails along his neck, their pale skins glistening under the dim lights, curves accentuated in the play of shadows. But as the intensity built toward another peak, that subtle tug in his mind grew stronger, evolving into vivid flashes, images that weren't his own, intruding like uninvited guests. At first, they were fragments, a crashed ship on Earth's soil decades ago, not just Lyra and Zara's, but another, older vessel. Then clearer visions, Zerathian scientists in sterile labs, manipulating genetic codes, blending alien essence with human DNA in secret experiments. Ben gasped, his rhythm faltering, but the women held him close, their touches urging him onward, as if to anchor him through the revelation. What's happening?" he whispered between breaths, his hands still gripping Zara's thighs, the physical bliss clashing with the mental storm. "SHH, let it come," Lyra murmured against his ear, her body arching in pleasure even as her voice carried reassurance. The bond surged, and the twist hit like a warp jump, sudden, disorienting, and utterly surprising. The visions coalesced. Ben wasn't just a kind-hearted farmer who'd stumbled into their lives by chance. He was the product of those ancient experiments, a hybrid seeded on Earth generations ago by Zerathian explorers. His ancestors had been chosen, their bloodlines infused with alien DNA to create dormant guardians, humans who could awaken to protect the scattered descendants when the time came. The storm that night 10 years ago? No mere coincidence. It was engineered by subtle Zerathian tech to guide Lyra and Zara to him, the one whose latent genes held the key to fully restoring their empire's waning power. Ben's world shattered in that instant, his climax crashing over him amid the revelation, body convulsing in ecstasy while his mind reeled from the truth. He cried out, not just from pleasure but from the shock, as memories unlocked within him, forgotten dreams of stars, an innate pull toward the sky he'd always chalked up to wanderlust. Lyra and Zara clung to him, their own releases syncing with his, waves of shared bliss amplified by the bond, but now laced with the weight of destiny. As they trembled together in the aftermath, breaths ragged and bodies entwined, the full implications dawned. His simple act of kindness had been predestined, a trigger to activate his hybrid nature, making him not just their savior, but the prophesied bridge between worlds. Tears welled in Lyra's violet eyes as she cupped his face, her curvaceous form still pressed against him. "We didn't know at first," she confessed softly, her voice breaking the silence. "When we found you, it was survival, but the bond, it revealed everything. You're one of us, Ben more than human, the missing link our people have sought for centuries." Zara nodded, her emerald gaze filled with awe and love, her hand resting on his chest where his heart, now beating with an alien rhythm, pounded. "Your DNA stabilizes ours, prevents the degeneration that stranded our ancestors. Without you, Zerathia would fade, but with you, we can thrive eternally." The surprise lingered, a powerful undercurrent that reshaped everything Ben thought he knew. He pulled away slightly, sitting up amid the cushions, his mind racing through the implications. The farm, his solitary life, it had all been a facade, a nurturing ground for his hidden heritage. The illness that had plagued him, not age, but the awakening of his dormant genes, suppressed until the ritual unlocked them, and the Dravex, not mere invaders, but a rival faction of Zerathian offshoots, sensing the activation and seeking to claim him for their own twisted purposes. The battle hadn't been random, it was a test, orchestrated in part by Zerathian elders to confirm his worth. Ben's laughter bubbled up unexpectedly, a mix of disbelief and exhilaration, cutting through the tension as he drew them back into his arms. "So I'm alien royalty too? Talk about a family reunion." The humor was his anchor, but the twist deepened their intimacy, the bond now fully open, revealing shared ancestries that made their love feel inevitable, cosmic. Lyra smiled through her tears, leaning in for a kiss that was tender yet charged, her body shifting to straddle his lap once more, reigniting smaller sparks. Zara joined, her touches exploratory, as if rediscovering him through this new lens. They moved together again, slower this time, the physical connection a way to process the revelation, Ben's hands caressing their forms with newfound wonder, feeling the subtle alien traits that mirrored his own emerging ones. His skin began to shimmer faintly, matching theirs as the hybrid awakening progressed, heightening every sensation. Moans mingled with whispers of explanation, the twist weaving into their passion without breaking the flow. "We search for you across stars," Zara breathed, her hips grinding gently, drawing him deeper. "Your kindness wasn't chance, it was your true nature calling to us." The surprise fueled their ardor, bodies uniting in waves of pleasure that affirmed their bond, Ben's releases syncing with theirs in ecstatic harmony. In the quiet intervals, they shared more, how his Earth life had been monitored from afar, subtle interventions ensuring his path led here. It was overwhelming, but empowering. Ben, the humble farmer, was now the fulcrum of an interstellar legacy. As they lay spent, entwined under the holographic moons, Ben stared at the ceiling, the twist settling like a new constellation in his mind. "What now?" he asked, voice steady despite the whirlwind. Lyra traced his jaw, her violet eyes resolute. "We lead together. But first, we must confront the elders. They've hidden this from our people, fearing the power it unleashes." Zara nodded, her hand linking with his. "And the Dravex will return, stronger, once they realize what you are." The revelation brought new dangers, but also unbreakable unity, their love no longer just repayment, but the foundation of a reborn empire. Ben pulled them closer, the bond pulsing with promise. His surprise heritage explained the instant connection, the effortless intimacy. They were soul-bound across bloodlines. As sleep beckoned, he felt a surge of HFY pride, human resilience blended with alien grace, making him unstoppable. The universe had conspired to bring them together, and now, with this powerful twist, their story was just beginning to unfold in ways that would reshape galaxies. Yet, even in repose, the bond whispered warnings, hidden factions within Zerathia plotted against hybrids like him, viewing them as abominations. The Elders' summons arrived via hologram, their faces stern. The awakening is complete, one intoned. But it comes at a cost. The prophecy demands a trial by void. Ben's eyes snapped open, the twist evolving into action. With Lyra and Zara at his side, he rose, ready to face whatever surprises the stars held next, their love the ultimate weapon in the cosmic dance. Ben's eyes snapped open, the twist evolving into action as the holographic Elders' stern faces flickered in the dim light of their quarters, their voices echoing with an authority that sent a chill down his spine, despite the warmth of Lyra and Zara's bodies still pressed against him. The projection hovered like judgmental ghosts. The lead Elder, a wizened figure with elongated ears and a robe that shimmered like liquid mercury, leaning forward as if to pierce through the veil of space. The trial by void awaits at the Nexus spire. He continued, his tone grave, where you must prove your hybrid worth or risk unraveling the very fabric of our renewed empire. The hologram dissolved with a dramatic pop, leaving behind a charged silence that heightened the drama, turning their cozy haven into a stage for impending doom. Lyra bolted upright first, her voluptuous form shifting with urgent grace. White hair tousled from their recent intimacies, while Zara's hand tightened on Ben's thigh, her emerald eyes narrowing in protective fury. The Elders, Zara hissed, always with their archaic rituals, they fear what they can't control, especially a human Zerathian like you. Ben sat up slowly, his newly awakened hybrid senses tingling with a mix of adrenaline and confusion, the bond flooding him with their shared anxiety. He could feel it now, sharper than before, hidden factions lurking in Zerathia's shadows, whispering of purges against impure bloodlines. The prophecy wasn't just a test, it was a potential death sentence, designed to eliminate threats under the guise of tradition. But before he could voice his rising dread, an awkward interruption shattered the tension, a soft, melodic chime from the door, followed by a hesitant voice over the intercom. Princesses, and the hybrid, the council requests your presence in the Grand Hall. Immediately, it was a young attendant, his tone wavering between deference and nervousness, as if he'd walked in on something scandalous. Ben realized with a flush that they were all still bare from their earlier passions, sheets tangled haphazardly around them like a poorly staged comedy. Give us a minute. Ben called out, his voice cracking in a way that made him sound like a teenager caught mid-makeout, adding a layer of humor to the escalating drama. Lyra stifled a giggle, her pointed ears twitching, while Zara rolled her eyes and summoned clothing fields, shimmering energy that wove fabrics around them in seconds, but not without a glitch that left Ben's suit comically oversized, hanging off him like a deflated balloon. Perfect timing, Ben muttered, tugging at the baggy material as it adjusted slowly, shrinking to fit but leaving him looking like he'd borrowed clothes from a giant. The women dressed flawlessly, their outfits hugging their curves in elegant, battle-ready attire, making Ben feel even more out of place, a farmer-turned-hybrid hero in ill-fitting alien pajamas. As they hurried out, the corridor lights flickered ominously, heightening the drama as if the ship itself sensed the storm brewing. Crew members bowed low, but Ben caught whispers. "The abomination awakens," one murmured, just loud enough to sting, fueling the internal conflict raging within him. The Grand Hall was a cavernous chamber of crystal and light, spires arching overhead like frozen lightning, filled with Zerathian nobles whose pale faces turned in unison as they entered. The Elders stood on a raised dais, their holographic forms now projected larger than life, exuding an aura of unyielding tradition. Ben felt exposed under their gaze, the bond amplifying Lyra and Zara's tension, Lyra's quiet defiance, Zara's simmering rage making his own heart pound like a war drum. Ben Harper, the lead Elder boomed, or should we say, Ilarian Voss, the name etched in our ancient scrolls for the hybrid foretold. The trial by void will test your essence in the heart of a black hole's event horizon, survive, and you claim your place as consort king. Fail, and Zerathia purges the impurity. The drama peaked as gasps rippled through the hall, nobles murmuring in shock. But Ben's mind reeled from the name, Ilarian Voss. It sounded ridiculous, like a bad sci-fi alias, and he couldn't help but chuckle nervously. Consort king? Sounds fancy, but back on Earth, we just call that a lucky guy. The attempt at humor fell flat in the solemn air, earning stern glares, but Lyra squeezed his hand, her violet eyes sparkling with suppressed amusement, while Zara shot him a look that said, "Not now." The awkwardness escalated when a holographic display activated, projecting Ben's Earth life in vivid detail, his farm, the storm night, even candid shots of him in overalls tending crops. Behold the primitive origins. An elder sneered, turning the presentation into a humiliating slideshow that had some nobles snickering behind crystalline fans. Ben's face burned, the drama twisting into personal mortification as images flashed of him wrestling a stubborn tractor. Mud-splattered and cursing, hardly the image of a prophesied savior. "Hey, that was a bad day," he protested, injecting humor to deflect. "At least I didn't have to deal with black holes, just black coffee." A few younger attendants chuckled, breaking the tension slightly, but the elder's expressions darkened, heightening the stakes. Zara stepped forward, her voice commanding, "This mockery ends now. Ben Ilarion has already proven himself in battle and bond. The trial is a farce to eliminate him before he exposes your secrets." The accusation hung heavy, drama surging as faction lines drew clear, loyalists to the princesses versus traditionalists eyeing Ben like a threat. Chaos erupted when a dissenter, a tall, gaunt noble with piercing yellow eyes, leapt to his feet. "The hybrid taints our blood. He must face the void alone." Shouts echoed, the hall dividing into factions, and in the melee, Ben tripped over his still-adjusting suit hem, stumbling into a decorative crystal podium that shattered with a comedic crash, shards tinkling like wind chimes. The room froze, awkward silence blanketing the drama. Before laughter bubbled from a corner, Lyra couldn't hold it in, covering her mouth as Zara hauled Ben up, whispering, "Graceful as ever, my love." The humor undercut the tension, humanizing him to some, but the elder slammed his staff, restoring order with a thunderous boom. "The trial commences at dawn. Prepare or perish." Escorted to preparation chambers under guard, awkwardly polite sentinels who avoided eye contact with the tainted hybrid Ben paced, the drama weighing on him like gravity wells. Lyra and Zara flanked him, their presences a balm, but the bond revealed their fears, visions of past trials where challengers vanished into the void's maw. "We won't let you go alone," Lyra vowed, her hand on his chest, feeling his hybrid heartbeat. But the awkward truth surfaced when Zara scanned the prophecy text on a console. It specifies solo entry, but nothing about sneaky escorts. Her wink added levity, but Ben's attempt at humor faltered. "Great, so I'm bait. Hope the black hole has a sense of humor. Maybe it'll spit me out for bad taste." As dawn approached, Zerathia's twin suns rising in a blaze of purple and gold, they suited up in void armor, sleek exoskeletons that hummed with energy fields. Ben's fit perfectly now, but in a humorous twist, it amplified his voice unintentionally during a test, broadcasting his mutterings fleet-wide. "This thing pinches in all the wrong places." Embarrassed chuckles echoed over comms, lightening the mood amid the drama, as crew members sent supportive messages, shifting some allegiances. The Nexus spire loomed, a colossal structure piercing Zerathia's atmosphere, its tip a gateway to artificially stabilized wormholes leading to the trial's heart, a contained black hole singularity, where reality bent and minds fractured. The journey there was tense, the shuttle shuddering through turbulent space, heightening the drama with each jolt. Ben gripped the arms of his seat, awkward in his attempts to play it cool, just like a bumpy tractor ride. He quipped, but his voice wavered, drawing fond smiles from his companions. Zara leaned over, her curvaceous form pressing close in the confined space, whispering encouragements that blended affection with strategy, her hand slipping under his armor in a brief, intimate touch that grounded him. Arrival brought spectacle. Crowds of Zerathians gathered in viewing galleries, holographic feeds broadcasting the event galaxy-wide. The elders presided, their faces impassive, but Ben sensed betrayal through the bond. A faction had sabotaged the containment fields, turning the trial into a lethal trap. Drama exploded as he stepped onto the platform, the void portal swirling like a hungry abyss, gravitational pulls tugging at his suit. "Enter, hybrid," the elder commanded, but as Ben advanced, alarms blared, fields destabilizing, the black hole expanding uncontrollably. Panic ensued, nobles fleeing as spires cracked, but Ben stood firm, his hybrid instincts kicking in. "It's a setup," he shouted, voice booming over the chaos. Lyra and Zara rushed forward, defying orders, their graceful forms dodging debris in a dramatic sprint. In the frenzy, Ben activated his suit's boosters, but a misfire sent him tumbling awkwardly toward the void, arms flailing like a cartoon character. "Whoa, not the plan," he yelled, humor piercing the terror, as Zara fired a tether that snagged him just in time, pulling him back with a yank that left him sprawled at her feet. Lyra blasted saboteurs emerging from shadows, cloaked figures with Dravex insignia, revealing an alliance between dissident Zerathians and their enemies. The battle ignited, heightening the drama to epic proportions. Plasma fire crisscrossing the spire, gravitational anomalies warping shots into surreal arcs. Ben rose, disruptor in hand, his human adaptability shining, using the void's pull to sling enemies into the abyss, their screams fading into nothingness. But awkwardness struck when a gravity wave stripped his armor partially, leaving him half-exposed mid-fight, blushing furiously as he ducked behind cover. Timing, universe, he grumbled, Zara tossing him a shield with a laugh. Focus on the bad guys, not your modesty. Lyra coordinated defenses, her violet eyes fierce, while Zara piloted emergency drones, their trio a whirlwind of synergy. A saboteur lunged at Ben, but he countered with a farm-honed punch, sending the attacker flying, humorous in its simplicity amid high-tech chaos. Earth-style, he cheered, earning a thumbs-up from a nearby guard shifting loyalties. The climax built as the black hole raged, threatening to consume the spire. Ben, drawing on his hybrid power, interfaced with the controls, his DNA the key to stabilization. As prophesied, energy surged through him, the bond with Lyra and Zara amplifying it, their hands linking in a dramatic circle that pulsed with light. Awkward energy feedback made their suits vibrate comically, but they held firm, the void shrinking back under their combined will. With the threat neutralized, saboteurs captured, the hall erupted in cheers, factions crumbling as Ben's heroism won hearts. The elders, exposed in their complicity, bowed in defeat, the drama resolving in triumphant unity. Yet, as Ben embraced his loves, humor lingered, his partial armor glitch fixed with a slapdash patch, leaving him looking like a patched-up scarecrow. King of the Void, huh? He joked, pulling them close. As long as I have you two, I can handle anything, even wardrobe malfunctions. The day ended with celebrations, but whispers of greater threats loomed, their bond stronger, ready for whatever cosmic awkwardness came next. The day ended with celebrations, but whispers of greater threats loomed, their bond stronger, ready for whatever cosmic awkwardness came next. And as the twin suns dipped below Zerathia's horizon, painting the spires in hues of amber and violet, Ben found himself swept into a whirlwind of festivities that felt both alien and oddly familiar. The Grand Hall, once a battlefield of words and plasma, now brimmed with life, Zerathians mingling in flowing robes that shifted colors with their moods, crystalline chalices clinking in toasts to the hybrid hero. Lyra and Zara stayed close, their hands never far from his, guiding him through the throng with a possessiveness that warmed him from within. Music filled the air, harmonic waves from instruments that looked like living vines, pulsing in time with the crowd's energy, and Ben couldn't help but sway to the rhythm, his hybrid senses making every note feel like a caress. Yet, amid the revelry, the Elder's downfall lingered like a shadow. The captured saboteurs had confessed under truth serums derived from Zerathian flora, revealing a deep-rooted conspiracy with the Dravex, fueled by fear of change. The Council, reformed in the wake of the chaos, now included voices from all factions, with Ben appointed as an advisor, his human perspective a bridge to unity. It was a good start, but Ben knew peace was fragile in the stars. As the night deepened, Ben slipped away with Lyra and Zara to the observation deck once more, seeking solace under the infinite canopy of space. The nebula swirled outside, a living painting of gas and stars, and Ben leaned against the viewport, his arms around them both, feeling the subtle hum of their bond like a second heartbeat. "We did it," he said softly, his voice carrying a mix of awe and exhaustion. Lyra turned in his embrace, her violet eyes reflecting the cosmic light, her white hair framing her face like a halo. She pressed a kiss to his lips, slow and tender, her pointed ears brushing his cheek in that familiar, exotic way that still sent shivers through him. "You did it," she corrected, her hand sliding up his chest, fingers tracing the faint luminescent patterns now etched on his skin, a mark of his awakening. Zara joined the kiss, her lips finding the corner of his mouth, her emerald gaze filled with a depth of emotion that words couldn't capture. "We're whole because of you," she murmured, her body molding against his side, the curves of her form a perfect fit in his arms. The moment stretched, intimate and unhurried, as they shed the remnants of their formal attire, the fabrics whispering to the floor like fallen leaves. Ben's hands explored them with a reverence born of their shared trials, savoring the smoothness of their pale skin, the way it glowed faintly under his touch. They moved to the alcove again, the cushions welcoming them like old friends, and their lovemaking was a gentle affirmation, a blend of passion and peace that healed the day's wounds. Lyra straddled him first, her movements fluid and loving, guiding him into her with a sigh that echoed through the bond, amplifying their pleasure. Zara watched for a heartbeat, her fingers intertwining with Lyra's, before leaning in to kiss them both, her body pressing close in a harmonious tangle. Sensations flowed freely, the warmth of Zara's thighs as she shifted to join, the soft moans that built like a crescendo, their releases sinking in waves that left them breathless and entwined. It wasn't just physical, the bond wove their souls tighter, sharing glimpses of futures, visions of Zerathia thriving, alliances forged with distant worlds, and perhaps, one day, a return to Earth to share the wonders. Ben held them close in the afterglow, his fingers combing through their white hair, marveling at how far he'd come from that rainy night on his farm. "I never imagined," he whispered, "that a simple meal could lead to this." As the celebrations wound down below, a council messenger arrived with news that solidified their victory. The Dravex had sued for peace. Their armada retreating after intercepted transmissions revealed Ben's hybrid power as an unstoppable force. It was a turning point, the prophecy fulfilled not through destruction, but through unity. Ben, Lyra, and Zara stood before the Reformed Council the next dawn, accepting roles as co-rulers, a triad of leadership that blended human ingenuity with Zerathian wisdom. The nobles cheered, the earlier divisions healing like wounds under starlight, and Ben felt a profound sense of belonging. His hybrid nature no longer a curse but a gift, months blurred into years in the timeless flow of space, Zerathia flourishing under their guidance. Ben's farm-inspired innovations, sustainable agrodomes drawing from Earth's techniques, fed entire sectors, while Lyra's diplomatic grace and Zara's strategic mind expanded their alliances. They traveled the stars aboard the X-Aurel's Dawn, now their home among the voids, exploring nebulae and forging pacts with species that viewed humans as legends. In quiet moments, they'd retreat to their chambers, bodies entwining in celebrations of life, the bond evolving to allow shared dreams where they wandered ethereal realms together. One evening, as they orbited a vibrant planet teeming with life, Ben proposed a journey back to Earth, not to stay, but to share. "Show them what's out here," he said, his voice laced with nostalgia. Lyra smiled, her hand on his, "and bring a piece of home to the stars." Zara nodded, her emerald eyes bright. "We'll go as one." The decision sparked a new adventure, the ship charting a course through wormholes, emerging near Sol's familiar glow. Earth had changed little in the decade plus, its blue marble still a beacon of resilience, and as they descended cloaked, Ben revisited his old farm, now overgrown but timeless. He shared stories with wide-eyed locals, subtly introducing Zerathian tech to aid humanity's steps into the cosmos. Lyra and Zara, disguised with holographic veils, walked beside him, their pointed ears hidden but their allure undeniable. In a quiet field under the stars, they renewed their vows, not in words, but in touches and whispers, bodies uniting under the same sky where it all began. The bond pulsed with completion. As Ben realized his life was no longer divided between worlds, he was the bridge, eternal and loved. As the X-Aurel's dawn lifted off, carrying seeds of alliance, Ben stood on the bridge with his beloveds, watching Earth fade into the starfield. Greater threats might loom, whispers of ancient cosmic entities stirring, but with their unbreakable triad, they faced the unknown unafraid. Love, after all, was the ultimate starship, propelling them through eternity's vast expanse. In the end, what started with a meal in a storm became a legend etched in the stars, the human who fed two lost souls, only to have them gift him the universe. And in the quiet hum of their ship, Ben knew this was just the beginning of forever, a good ending, wrapped in wonder, passion, and the infinite possibilities of the cosmos. As the X-Aurel's dawn sailed into the endless void, Ben, Lyra, and Zara embraced their eternal journey, their love a guiding star against any darkness ahead. What began with a simple act of kindness had blossomed into a galactic legacy of unity and passion. Personally, I love how this story shows that one small gesture can change universes. It's inspiring and full of heart. What do you think? Would you help two strangers in a storm? Thank you for watching. Your likes, subs, comments, and shares are our biggest motivation to create more amazing stories. See you in the next adventure.